House is attempting this morning to clarify President Trump's proposal for the United States to take over Gaza. On Tuesday, the president announced the U.S. should own the enclave, redevelop it, and relocate 2 million Palestinians who live there to either Egypt or Jordan. Those two countries have said they are not willing to do that. He also suggested American troops could be deployed to Gaza to carry out that plan. Comments, of course, sparked international backlash, especially from Arab countries. Now, the White House appears to be walking back part of the president's proposal while defending his idea.
The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea. That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region.
What President Trump announced yesterday is the offer, the willingness of the United States to become responsible for the reconstruction of that area. It was not meant as a hostile move. It was meant as I think, a very generous move, the offer to rebuild and to be in charge of the rebuilding of a place, many parts of which right now, even if people move back, they would have nowhere to live safely because there are still unexploded munitions and debris and rubble.
The definition of insanity is attempting to do the same thing over and over and over again. And as the president and prime minister pointed out last night, the president is willing to think outside the box, look for new and unique dynamic ways to solve problems that have felt like they're intractable.
Joe, interesting to hear from Defense Secretary Hegseth and Secretary of State Rubio there, because it's reported this morning in the New York Times that President Trump did not consult either the Department of Defense or the Department of State before making this announcement in an open press availability with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So again, what we're seeing is Donald Trump throwing out a radical idea, his staff scrambling in behind him, and really the whole of the American government scrambling behind him to make sense of it or to explain it away.
Well, you know, and that really is. And I've been saying this for months now. I've been talking about the need to separate the signal from the ground noise. And when he said this, so many people sort of laughed, rolled their eyes, said, oh, he's just saying it. Maybe sometimes he does that to distract from something else that's going on. Maybe it's Elon Musk ripping through the federal government and trying to get access to things he doesn't have the legal right to get access to. Or maybe it is, just as we've said about the tariffs from the beginning, maybe it is the opening bid of something, present something so shocking that other countries have to reset in the way they negotiate. And that is the way he works, David Ignatius. And even though many of our allies and fewer of our enemies understand that, I know I spoke with people in the region over the past couple of days, and even if it was an opening bid, even if a day after, everybody's saying, okay, well, they seem to be backing off. Talk about your reporting and how our allies were deeply shaken by this. Our enemies were thrilled by this, because what propaganda for Iran, what propaganda for Hamas, what propaganda for our enemies that the imperialist America now wants to come over. But talk about it, because when we say Arab countries were upset, that used to be our enemies are upset. Now those Arab countries, those Sunni Arab countries, are close allies. They were deeply shaken by this, and even the DHS had to send out, as you reported, a chilling warning about the possibility of terror strikes as a result of this change in posture.
So, Joe, like Trump's tariff policies, what was shocking about this was that it was an assault on our closest friends and allies, Jordan and Egypt, which are the two countries that matter most in terms of the security of Israel. When the proposal was made, the reaction in the Arab world was immediate. People were on the phone. I'm told that Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, was talking yesterday to King Abdullah in Jordan, offering him assurance that Donald Trump is not going to roll us into supporting this proposal. By midday, the reaction was so strong that you could see Trump, through the White House spokesman, backing away from some details of the plan. This had been announced as a takeover. We're going to take Gaza. We're going to take it with troops. But by midday, no boots on the ground. The reality is that this is a crazy proposal. The idea that the United States would take over property in the most explosive, war-prone part of the world, and that a president who said, I'm going to end Middle East wars, would be championing it. It makes your head spin. It's likely that this isn't going anywhere. But is it the opening bid? The opening bid to what? The truth is, a solution for Gaza. The president's right. Gaza looks like a demolition zone. I've seen it with my own eyes. Right. Every building you see in every direction has been destroyed. What's going to be done? If Trump's idea is a bad one, what's a good one? And there are lots of ideas out there. The Israelis have been resisting many of the ones the U.S. has proposed. If this is the opening of a real discussion about how you rebuild Gaza, so much the better. But Trump's initial version of this was so disorienting for the region that it got a big pushback, and I do think is going to be a fodder for terror groups that would like to inspire radical action in the United States. I did quote this morning a memo that was sent out in the early hours of yesterday morning by DHS, noting the likelihood that there would be protest demonstrations around the country, and that if they turn violent, people would have to deal with that. So I think already there's a sense that this may be triggering precisely the kind of threat within the homeland that we shouldn't be wanting.
So, David, let me ask you, if this was an attempt to just throw everybody off balance and set up an opening bid for something different, because as the Wall Street Journal editorial page said, going back to the status quo with Hamas in charge certainly is not an option. That was this morning's Wall Street Journal lead editorial. So what is this an opening bid for? Is this an opening, perhaps the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Jordanians, other people in the region coming in with an Arab peacekeeping force? What could this be an opening bid to? What could do you have any reporting on what Donald Trump was trying to get to?
So Donald Trump's vision, and this does go back many months and maybe even years. I had one senior Arab official say, this is the deal of the century coming back. We're going back to Trump's first term, and let's just turn over everything and start again with American leadership. So maybe there are echoes of that. Certainly, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, was talking a year ago. You can see him on tape at a Harvard seminar talking about the need to turn Gaza into a wonderful waterfront. He was talking about moving people out into the Negev Desert, which is in Israel, not to Egypt and Jordan. So this is an idea that's been cooking for Trump, but he does have a sort of real estate developer's sense of, here's opportunity, here's a demolition zone, let's figure out a way to rebuild it. In terms of what would be a sane alternative, the Biden administration, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor both, have been pushing the idea that you need a day after in Gaza in which you gradually give the Palestinian Authority more and more responsibility, so that you have Palestinians who are vetted by Israel, who have shown that they can handle security duties, being responsible there. I don't see a better way than that. So that's not something Trump is sympathetic to, but he better start looking at it, because I don't see another way.
Yeah, David, clearly bringing a developer's mindset to the most fragile and fragmented foreign policy threat and debacle in the world. Carlos, this was seemingly the one thing that Republicans' knee-jerk reaction was to say, this is crazy, insane, deranged. Those were actual quotes that we heard from Republicans and Democrats alike. Why is this the issue that they're willing to go to bat on against the administration? Is it because it just seems so out there that they feel like there's not a political tax?
Well, number one, it's pretty obvious, right? And I think easy to dismiss. It is a radical idea. To be fair, not more radical than having terrorists run Gaza, but still a radical idea. And at the same time, it's inconsistent with what Trump has been telling congressional Republicans and the country for so long, right? That we should be investing in our own country, that we should withdraw from conflict zones, that we shouldn't put our men and women in harm's way. Well, putting people in Gaza seems pretty dangerous to me. So I think a lot of people on the Hill, and I was up there yesterday, were just kind of surprised that he would propose something that is so distant from the persona that he's created, from this idea that he's promoted, that the United States should actually withdraw from the world stage.